about Joe Biden, Joe Manchin, and the rest of Congress in this case. So as you figure it out, Joe Biden is president now, and the Senate is now 50-50 split, and that gives control to the Democrats since they have the tiebreaker, since they have the president and such. There's a lot of talk about Joe Manchin, the Democrat senator from West Virginia, and knew before then that Joe Manchin would play a big role if and when the Democrats take control of Congress. However, there has been so much extremes going on. So let's break this down, what's going on this case. Joe Manchin is the main guy because he is the Democrat senator from a very red state in West Virginia. There are some things that he does for the state. He actually does his job. He actually listens to the people of the state. Granted, they're mostly Republicans, mostly conservatives, so he has to make that conversation. But essentially, he doesn't be part of the far right, where the GOP is right now. So that's why he's a Democrat, because he doesn't want to deal with that crap. And the Democrats, for the most part, are reasonable. And I would say the most part of it, because this is where the part that screws everything up. And in general, people want $15 minimum wages, free college, Medicare for all, defund the police. The problem with that is there's an all or nothing system with these type of sides. Basically, the extreme right is, if you're not all in, you're out. You basically have to commit to all the crap we do. That's the far right. The far left are the more somewhat reasonable one, but they want everything. They want the $15 minimum wage. They want take control of everything. Like, essentially, look at Game of Thrones. Like, you basically have Cersei basically as the GOP side, and then you have the Carriers who does care a lot, but when in power, they don't know what to do with it. So you're stuck with the middle. And this is where Joe Manchin has a lot of power in the Senate. Basically, he dictates what's going to take, or what the bill goes forward to. And that's why the American Rescue Plan moved forward quickly, because people really need that. And there'll be some moments they'll be slowing down to it. If there's one thing I think Joe Manchin, I wouldn't say regretted, but I felt hesitant about Joe Manchin, was the nomination of Nina Tiernan and why he didn't want to elect her. And it's not by the skill set. I think Nina can do the job. It was that Joe Manchin mentioned that she made terrible comments in the past. And one of the products was the EpiPen. And the EpiPen is actually headed by Joe Manchin's daughter, who has up and making a lot of money to it. And it sounds a little bit petty and somewhat unreasonable, but he sounded like that was probably the best mood to take it. So I think that's the only bad thing he really did. But everything else, I think he's being reasonable in this case. Sure, we want to take out the filibuster. We want the $15 minimum wage. We want Medicare for all. And essentially, most of the country want that. And I think there have been voting ballots that are out there that they voted for the $15 minimum wage, which is fine. It's how do we get there? And this is where it becomes a little bit tricky. For some, Joe Manchin has to worry about the state. West Virginia is one of the poorest states in the country. So he wants a lot of pork. And the Democrats were willing to do that. And to let you know about pork, it's where you give incentive to that senator that we'll pass this bill, but we'll give you this one and this one. Essentially, that is as an add-on to it. It used to be that way. And then several years ago, they took it away because it was going rampant so much. But in this case, you really want the pork to give to West Virginia because they are really poor. But the reason why we're taking time on this is because for some, it's about who do you want to give the $15 minimum wage. And in this case, it involves race. For progressive issues, people have no problem with it. It's that who they select who wants to get the $15 minimum wage, the Medicare for all, the free college. For some of these, it's controlled by white people. They want all this stuff for themselves and don't care about the people of color. And that's where I think that's where the tricky part is. And that's where the extremes come in. The extreme right, basically are on their own, and we don't care about that. The extreme left really wants everything on that front, but it's mostly for rights. Like, basically, that's what they call Bernie Bros, essentially, because they're mostly right and they want it for themselves, but not for like people of color and such. They'll say it's for people of color, but really they want to cover it for themselves. And that's where we have this problem, is that anything we do is going to mostly be beneficial for the rights. And that has to change. And then people want to say they want to take out Joe Manchin because he's not following the rules, following in order. The thing is, though, he is a Democrat senator, as I mentioned, in West Virginia. How rare is that? So, if you want all these changes, take out all the Republican seats in 2022. Joe Manchin's seat comes in 2024. So, if you clear out the Senate and then get the House by a good majority, then you can make whatever bill you want. I don't know why they want to do it now, but that's what the thing is. Like, now they're going to primary all the people, and people are just now saying they're going to primary Joe Manchin. Who's going to primary Joe Manchin? Which progressive, and I'll say this, which progressive will primary Joe Manchin in West Virginia? Now, if the progressive wins, sure, they can win, but can they win now the general Senate election? And that's where that's going to be the problem of that. And the only reason Manchin will do that is if he leaves. And if there's a good set of majorities in the Senate, in the Democrat side for the Senate. And that's where you can make your move. If you want to have that real problem, look at what happened at the American Rescue Plan. People were talking about Kirsten Sinema, like, throwing the thumbs down, like, prancing all over. And she said no. And that's actually fine. She said no because she has previously said that the minimum wage should be a separate act, still be a separate bill, and 8 senators said no. And people were so ravaging fire to it. But I think this is where the key part is. It was during that time, and some have discussed this, but it wasn't discussed in the mainstream news, is that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and the others basically talked to the parliamentarian and saying, you gotta put this in, or we'll cut you out. The parliamentarian is doing their job, and they're saying the $15 minimum wage is not gonna be part of the bill because that's overreaching. And they listened to it. Even the GOP, when they were trying to overreach, said the parliamentarian said, no, you can't do that. So the parliamentarian is doing their job of what's appropriate. But the Bernie Bros, the supporters asking, no, you have to put that in. You have to put that in. I mean, come on. I mean, and that's where I think the whole discussion comes in, is that the leftists, the far left, really want to get it done now. But they don't care about the others. And I think they just want those people to take advantage. And by those people, I basically mean mostly right, and most of it Bernie supporters and the far left, AOC, the Squad, Elizabeth Warren, all those people. They want to give them the head warning and such. And people will enjoy that because they're entertaining and the media likes them for that one. But on the governing side of things, it's terrible. It's terrible. It really is. And I think that's where the crux of the issue is that the far left and the far right are doing all the talking, but all the work is going to the middle. Basically, the people who want to get the work done. And that's where we are right now. People say, oh, we're going to be a gridlock. We're not a gridlock. You basically have to negotiate with Joe Manchin, essentially. Or Kirsten Sinema of some sort, but I don't think she's a big deal. I think she'll fall with Arizona. And Arizona is going into more of a purple state, almost turning blue, but I think mostly to a purple state right now. So I think Sinema will be open to her viewpoint and reception to it. But everything goes to Joe Manchin because he's in the state that is mostly Republican and he's a Democrat and he can use that power. The problem is people want it now or not, but it's up to him. And I think he wants to get everything done. So the American Rescue Plan, get that done. He'll get all the people coming in, and then any tiebreakers he wants, He'll figure it out. And this is why Biden and Manchin always have a great connection, because Biden knows he'll get essentially what he wants, but he'll talk to Joe Manchin and say, "What do you need?" And that basically covers that. And they can work over the numbers and such. So the real negotiation is between Biden and Manchin. Everything else is just noise, or what you're hearing. And I think that's where the concern is, like, they're not going to get everything what they need to do. Well, that's negotiation. That's part of it. And you assume that you all have full control. You're a 50-50 split. And Joe Manchin is literally the 50-50 senator, because he, as I mentioned, Democrat in West Virginia. That's all to be said. And if you wanted to primary him, go ahead. But good luck finding someone to replace it, because you have to work with him, and that's what Biden is doing. He's actually doing his job. Everyone else is just talking. The two most important people in the room who can get these done. And people need to be patient about that. And that's basically on that view on Congress and such. And I think people have this whole notion that you have to get everything before it gets to 2022, because you assume. Here's the key thing. If you want to get your stuff done, you want to get all the bills, all the laws that you wanted to do, go vote. Go vote in 2022 or 2021, in my case, because I have the Virginia governor's race, and that's going to be very interesting with the Democratic primary and such. If you really want to get these bills done and get taken over, vote in 2021 or 2022 and see where it goes. And then you have a different set of Congress, and you don't have to worry about Joe Manchin or the Republicans taking over. But that's your choice. Hopefully you have the right senator in your state, and hopefully it does well. If not, we're back to square one, back in the 2010s.